Starting your own practice is hard for many chiropractors. It's riddled with both struggles and successes. But here at the Chiropractic Philanthropist, we make it easy by having chiropreneurs and entrepreneurs share their struggles and lessons learned in life and business so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And now here's your host, Dr. Ed Osborne.
How amazing would it be if you could practice because you want to, not because you have to? Learn how to improve your cash flow and increase your passive income now. Go to moneyripples.com or find their podcast, The Chris Miles Money Show, to learn more. All right, TCB listeners, I want to thank you for showing up for today. And I have an incredible guest, and that is actually Dr. Ali Miller. Ali, how you doing?
I'm good.
This has been in the works for like forever, it seems, like a year.
A long time. Yeah. We've never had an official one.
Should probably have done it like one of these times we were at CalJam or something.
That's
together.
right.
That would have been really interesting. It would have been one of the highest downloaded episodes ever.
For the wrong reason.
All right. So I've gotten, able to get to know you, as a chiropractor, but also as a friend. So why don't you, share a little bit with our listeners, tell us a little bit about you and, you as a chiropractor, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. So like you mentioned, my name's Ali Miller. I've been practicing for, I guess, almost 18 years in Bolton. So my practice is mostly focused on pediatrics and families, even more so moms. I just find the most joy out of all of those patients. I connect really well with them because obviously I am one. I'm a mom of 3. I've been married for 21 years. We were some of those crazies that started our family while I was still in school. So wow. I kind of, got on the family trip quick. And, my family loves to travel and be outside and spend lots of time with friends. We have regular Sunday family dinners. I love exercise. And about a year and a half ago, with your help, I started that Mom Minute podcast, which again, kind of brought together my practice kind of joys and just life stuff, which is just literally little snippets for moms to kind of share information, inspiration, laughs, books, whatever it may be.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
And so what was it that inspired you to say, hey, look, you know what, I think I want to do the podcast? Because there's so many docs who want to do that, but they're just like, I don't know if this is something I should do.
Yeah. Or they're chicken, because I was one of those too.
Okay. I didn't want to say that.
Yeah. So I think it's just because I interact with so many moms, either through my friends or my kids' moms or in my office, there's constantly these questions or challenges, and we're just always looking for a commonality or a tribe to kind of support you. So it was to answer some of those questions, right? On exercise, on nutrition, on parenting challenges, on hacks to do stuff in your house, or just kind of something fun or inspirational or whatever it may be. So it's literally these quick little things that a mom can listen to, walking the dog or on her way home from dropping off at school, that just gives some help or laugh or whatever it may be.
How long does it take you to produce one of those? Like an episode?
Pretty quick. The first one took me a long time. Now, you know what? I sit and whatever in less than an hour, I kind of write them out, or my main ideas. Okay. And then to record it and kind of pull it all together and get it posted is, not even 30 minutes.
Wow. So a lot. So it's actually not a huge amount it's like not a big time suck in terms of marketing, and it's an evergreen piece that you can use.
Yeah, it was the idea of it that was the scariest piece, right? And then once I kind of started, I knew you had to jump in and you had to kind of follow it up with another one and another one and another one, and now it's all good. Yeah,
part of the hardest piece is like hitting record, right?
No, for sure. Yeah. And even that first time thinking about, well, does anyone really want to hear what I have to say? Am I going to say anything good? And all the wording of it, and then you soon realize it's all good. Everyone's just there to listen and support.
Yeah. I just got interviewed for a summit, and I'm like, is anyone really going to pay attention to what I have to say? I think Jack Canfield's a guest on this thing. Like, I'm like, You're not going to tune in to listen to Dr. Ed. Come on.
You never know. You are Dr. Ed.
I am the SHIT. Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Okay. So one of the things we love too as chiropractors, we love, MEMS, we love words of positivity, affirmations. So why don't you drop on our listeners, some words of wisdom?
Okay. I think, when I think about something that I try and kind of keep in my present time, kind of a motto, so to speak, it would be that this moment doesn't define me. And this is kind of something that I kind of actually stole it from my husband, but he's shared it with me and we share it with our girls. And it's something we try and literally live by, meaning that sometimes, you have a small setback or you have a moment where you don't show up 100% or you have a parenting moment that's not so great. But it's just to give yourself a little bit of grace for that thing that didn't work and to kind of move forwards, right? And just because something didn't work doesn't mean you're not going to have great success in it at a later time. Or, so we've used it with our kids. Let's say one of them was sidelined with a concussion and missed a huge, competition. And that didn't mean that her whole swim career didn't mean anything, right? It was just that moment. And now she could move forwards. And if there was going to be another one and she was going to still do great things, and we can kind of take that on as ourselves too. And as moms and dads too.
I mean, you've been in the profession for 18 years, right? So do you find like chiropractors that we're we tend to be hypercritical of ourselves?
Of course. Yeah. And I think even personally, right? That's something that I've definitely struggled with over time, right? Where you just compare yourselves to other people, right? So you hear, you've got these young startups kind of coming out of the blocks right now and they're crushing it, right? And they're really good, let's say, at this social media stuff. And sometimes those of us who have been out a little bit longer that might not be as familiar with certain things, that's harder where you think, oh, I can't do that. But we can't fall into that comparison or the hypercritical or any of that, right? It's to be us. Yeah.
And that kind of takes us into we'll kind of use that as a hook and come into a different conversation in a moment. But so this is the part of the episode I like to talk about, the shit sandwich, which is like that time where you fell completely on your face and you were like in the pit and you pull yourself out. What was it that what was the situation? What happened? Could be life or business or otherwise. What did you learn from it? And then how did it change your life, or how did you apply that lesson to your life today?
I think it definitely has, in practice wise, it has been when I have ever compared myself, right? So as a woman chiropractor, sometimes it's really, or not easy, but it happens that you end up comparing yourself to some other woman's practice or to a man's practice. And there's going to be differences, right? There's going to be differences with, my role in the house compared to someone else's role in the house, how many kids you have, if you have any kids, all these different things. And so it's just so important to kind of not look at that stuff, right? As it's way easier said than done, right? Because you can look at somebody who sees this many patients in a week or a month, or someone who's speaking on a stage and kind of wondering, well, why am I not doing that? But there's other things that I have done, right? That I know other people may look at and think, oh my God, she's crazy, right? She had these 2 kids before even graduating, or, she has all this time to do whatever. But whatever it is, it's just to find what makes you happy and the practice that you want and go with that, because that's going to bring the most joy and the most success ultimately.
That's a good point, and I think that's actually true in a lot of, maybe not even just in practice, but I think in business in general, or maybe even in life. Right, where we start we start chasing other people's values or goals, or especially when we're working with other mentors or people who are really successful, or what we define, are told is the definition of success. So really just, like looking at your practice and looking at it from a lens of like how you what you define success as versus like what you might say someone who does. I'll throw Chris Zano under the bus. So like Chris Zano, I see what he does and I'm like, how does he possibly see 2,000 people a week? I mean, I had some high volume and I was like exhausted. I'm like 1 week and I'm like, I can't do this again. But you have to just define, is this what you're saying? Like define what you want.
Yeah. And so if I think about my practice and what I love about my practice, it would be really hard to see 2,000 people in a week, right? Because it's full of kids. And as you know, kids sometimes cooperate and sometimes they don't. So something might be quick one day and another day it takes a long time to get them on the table. And, I connect really well with the moms in my office, right? So I know whose kids are in dance and who's in gymnastics. And that all requires a relationship, right? But I love that piece. And so I'm going to have the conversations. I'm going to know who's away at this university and, whose birthday's coming up next week and all that kind of stuff. And they know that about me and my family too. And so it just creates this completely different dynamic, but that's the part I love.
Yeah.
Right? I love.
So I'm not throwing Chris under the bus, by the way, Christina. Because clearly that he's got a system, something that works for him, and that's how he wants to perform inside of his life. That's his values and what he like how he pushes the envelope. I like this discussion because you bring up a couple things. Number one, being a female chiropractor, right? You have different I don't want to say responsibilities, but it kind of is different responsibilities. Like how many, you have 3 kids?
3.
So they're getting in, they're in their teens, right? I mean, they're old. You've raised 3 kids, right? While balancing, the stressors and, of practice. So completely different, right? But how you define success is also, I imagine, different too.
Of course, right? And a part of my success is the great job I have done with my kids, right? And the great support that I've been for my husband, right? So it's this whole, it's not just one piece. Like to me, it's all of them. And the way I've built my practice and my life is to have success in all of those pieces. Because if I did maybe work more hours or see way more people, I would have missed out on stuff that to me has been a part of the success.
Yeah, totally. It was interesting too. I had a conversation with Nima Rahmani yesterday. And he asked me, he said, if you're on your deathbed and it's your last breath, like, what do you want people to think about you or say about you or the people that are around you? And it certainly wasn't for me, like how many patients I saw. Oh, man, he was, on my deathbed, it'd be like, man, he was seeing 1,000 a week. That wouldn't be, I'm not lying, by the way. I actually have it written on a sticky note right here. So I actually remind myself to think about this the next couple of days. But it's so true, as I think, and I'll use your words before we started here, is really defining what you want out of your practice. Mm-hmm. That's really the secret, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And, and the same thing, I remember during this whole crazy lockdown mess, when it was Easter, I grabbed all my kids and we literally went around to a lot of the kids in my practice houses, and I dropped off these little like Easter chocolates, right? And their parents and the kids, like they were overjoyed, right? And some of them would post, let's say, on social media about that I was more than their chiropractor, right? That's what I want. That's what I want to hear at the end of the day. I know that I'm their chiropractor. I know that I'm the good chiropractor, but to be, even more than that is even better.
Yeah. Well, this is amazing. So what if I'm a doc, like if I'm a doc in practice right now and I'm feeling kind of those struggles, I'm in a community, like how many people are in Bolton, Ontario?
Maybe like 28,000.
So small city, small town, I guess you could say, or large town, chiropractor, but I'm feeling the stress and the pressure of, CV and all of these things. What would you say would be like the number one thing that got you through all of this stuff? Because I know you had to lock down for a bit too.
Yeah, and it was really hard. I think the biggest, during that time, I still really connected with everyone in my office, right? So I was regularly sending, phone, text messages, videos, emails, whatever it may be. And that helped me to obviously feel like I was still kind of doing things and chatting with them and connecting with them. But when we finally opened back up, it was great to hear them say, that it was great to hear from me, or this video was great, or it was just nice to hear someone with the positive word instead of, oh no, right? So it was good all around.
That's, you know what, you're probably the third doc that I've spoke to that is exactly what they did.
Yeah.
They just sat down and they started pulling out active patient files and they just started calling people.
Yeah.
Just having conversations. And, that's, the reason why I feel that was so important for them. And actually when they did, open up the doors again and they had a flood of people come back was because it's just one word, which is connection. You stay connected with everyone. Right. Yeah. And I found that it's such an old school way of communicating, but it's exactly what people needed at the time. And
for
probably
sure.
Still do.
They still do. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And same thing with social media right now. What we're doing is, and here's a tip for anyone who actually has listened this far, is, if people are commenting, if they're sharing, if they're following you, any sort of engagement that we're seeing, on social media, whether it's Instagram or whether it's Facebook, I won't mention LinkedIn, it's kind of garbage, but, that we're actually taking that conversation, putting it into Messenger, and opening dialogues with people, and then eventually opening up a conversation where we connect with people too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. So we're going to put you in the TCP time machine. You ready?
Ready.
Okay. Hold on. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to actually send you back to a younger version of yourself. So this is 18 years ago. Okay. You just came out of chiropractic college. You have all the knowledge, all the experience that you have today. Now you meet your younger self. What one thing you would say to your younger self?
I would say it doesn't have to be perfect for you to do it. There's no such thing as the perfect time.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
If it's perfect, it's probably too late.
Right. But it goes, and that's for practice and life, right? You're never going to find the perfect time to have 9 months to be pregnant or to buy a house or to start the podcast, whatever it may be. You just kind of have to jump in.
Yeah. Just go. Yeah. Cool. Just go. Yeah. I love it. And so the last thing that we love to do is just really drop some sort of a valuable resource. So it could be a podcast, a book, could be an app you're using, maybe in your office or mobile, could be a person. So what would you say doctors need to go out and actually consume and absorb right now?
I think any doctors that are looking for the practice with the same kind of focus that I am drawn towards with that whole pediatric and families, I'd go with a person. I'd go with Tony Ebel, right? And the whole pediatric experience. Yeah, he's my homie. And just, it's just such great information on communication, on marketing, on certainty in chiropractic, all on team, all these different things that literally I know kind of help me to have a stronger practice with that focus and just be a better chiropractor.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And it's certainly, that is a great resource too. I mean, we'll drop the link for Tony and, because it's, here's one thing I've never consumed any of Tony's, Dr. Tony Ebel's pediatric program or anything like that. However, I have massive respect for this man as a marketer and as a communicator, more so a communicator, relentless.
And I've worked with lots of different people and he's so talented at what he does in every sense, but super knowledgeable, super smart, all of that stuff but he's also real. It's not a script, right? What he says doesn't work if I say it, but it just kind of, teaches you how to say it the way you need to say it.
Yeah, he's built a great community there. Well, perfect. So listeners, you can actually head over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com. We're going to have a webpage dedicated to our discussion with Dr. Ali Miller today. And we'll also have links to all of the resources like her podcast and also Dr. Tony and anything else that we might have mentioned or stumbled across here in the conversation. But Doc, I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast today and giving back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you've heard the struggles, you've heard the successes, and this episode is done. But there's still so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com and sign up for our newsletter where you'll receive free practice building tips and strategies, including how to market your practice with your very own podcast and so much more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Chiropractic Philanthropist.